If you asked a random person what got you into the theater in 2024, there's a ton of awesome movies they might name drop.
Indiana Jones!
But there's a good chance they'd mention something else entirely. Getting blasted in the movie theater and enjoying it. In a 4DX movie, you feel the wind, you smell the chocolate, and your chair rumbles and drifts like Shai Hulud. A couple decades ago, this was something you'd only experience in a theme park, but now it's in a bunch of movie theaters around the world. But as a video game YouTuber, when I got out of my 4DX screening of Twisters, I thought about it the same way I do after playing a great video game. How did they do that? I mean, literally, who decides when my chair rumbles, when the wind blows, and what I should be smelling at this moment? So I went to the people who make 4DX happen and asked.
Me and my team, we take care of anything content related for 4DX. My name is Paul Kim. I am the Senior Vice President of Content and Production at CJ40plex.
Paul was really helpful in explaining not just how 4DX happens, but also why, which we'll get to later. Because, of course, the first question on my mind was, this jiggling, immersive technology must have been derived from video games, what with their rumble packs and gamer synths, right?
Video games and the force feedback on the controllers, that wasn't really part of why we thought to bring 4DX to the market.
As it turns out, 4DX and video games aren't directly related. But I think there's some convergent evolution going on. Film and video games are both competing against our limited attention and are fighting for it with the same tool: immersion. A more direct ancestor to 4DX would be the theme parks I mentioned earlier. Things like Epcot's Honey, I Shrunk the Audience or Universal Studios' Shrek 4D. These four-dimensional experiences immersed the audience in their worlds with effects like fans, moving chairs, and swampy mist.
Usually that's paired up with specific content made for that specific location only. And we thought, well, it's storytelling. How can we take storytelling a little bit further and make it that much more fun? And that's when we came up with the 4DX idea.
4DX got its start in Seoul in 2009 in a single theater showing a 4D version of Journey to the Center of the Earth, a film I could have sworn was a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson vehicle from 2018, but anyway. The release that helped the format really take off in Korea was James Cameron's Avatar.
You should see your faces.
Audiences had such a great time soaring over the canopies of Pandora with him and Sigourney Weaver? That's Craig. I remember Craig. Anyway, it was so successful that CJ40plex immediately opened up 2 more theaters. From there, 4DX theaters quickly spread around the world before landing in the US in 2014. So while 4DX has had a big moment in 2024, it's not a brand new experience, but one that CJ40plex has been honing for more than a decade. And that includes the process for making a 4DX experience.
We work with the studios, we reach out to them, and we have a collaborative conversation on which titles or which films would work best. In the case of, for example, Twisters, we reached out to Universal. We said this looks like a really good fit for the format.
Once CJ40plex has the go-ahead from the studio, they get to work with specialized in-house teams, much like the way games are made. But while a game developer has character animators and a different team that handles sound design, CJ40plex has a 3 to 4 person team of producers that focus on the motion of the chairs, while another team focuses on when you get blasted in the face. Sometimes making those effects feel right means experiencing them firsthand. A producer programming the chairs on a Fast and Furious movie, for example, might take trips to a racetrack with some sensors so they can capture how fast and furious that acceleration really is, data they can use in their programming. But the majority of these producers' work is similar to that of a video editor. They even have in-house software that resembles an editing timeline.
There's multiple tracks, and depending on the track, you can put a different type of effect. So is it motion? right? Then how you draw the curves will determine whether this will move to the left, forward, backward, up, or down. And then, okay, the vibration. Now there's another track. How intense is that vibration and which part of the chair is it coming from will be a different track or a different intensity in the curves.
Like an orchestra, these different elements are harmonized into a single composition containing every effect that 4DX has to offer. That code, or I guess sheet music, can then be injected into every 4DX theater around the world. These producers aren't changing what you see or hear on screen, but the choices they make directly affect the experience you're going to have.
So we call all of our artists producers because in essence they are.
That's artistry has to start with a deep understanding of the film itself. Before I went into Twisters 4DX, I was still thinking about this like a video game, or even one of those 4D theme park rides, where the experience is all happening to the player, or to the audience.
Hi there, folks. Welcome to Lord Farquaad's castle. Run for your lives!
But film is rarely a first-person experience, so 4DX producers have to think about their effects very differently. Paul gave the example of the opening scene of Twisters, which is the titular calm before the storm. The characters are all in a truck, driving through farm country. You feel the bumps of the rural road and just a hint of wind as those characters excitedly begin pinpointing a tornado to chase.
And this is where the creative process comes to light, which is then you have to identify, well, who's the character? Is it the truck? Is it the people? Is it the tornado? And depending on who the main character of that shot is or that sequence is, we will then start to adjust. And as the tornado gets closer and closer, it's going to be much more about the wind. Your chair is going to start rocking back and forth a lot harder. And then next thing you know, you're in the middle of the tornado. You don't feel any of the bumps, because when you're driving down the road and there's a tornado on top of you, I mean, you're not going to care about all the sensitivities of the road, right?
Just because the tech came from theme parks doesn't mean 4DX is a blunt instrument. The bombastic chair shaking is contrasted with more subtle moments that pull you into the experience. This happened to me during a scene where two characters were chatting as they cruised along a highway, when suddenly a car nearly drives them off the road. At first I was jostled, but my next feeling was anger at that reckless driver, because my chair moved like I was nearly in a car accident. But without the contrast between the subtle motion of cruising on a paved highway and the jagged motion of, look out for that car, it's a lot less likely I would have been immersed enough to literally get mad. Of course, even something as seemingly simple as a sudden jostling isn't that simple. For example, movies have cuts, and the motion of a car chase may not always flow the same direction between cuts.
So how do you do that with the chair? We do that where, even if it's just a few frames, we will anticipate that and subtly move the chair to the right so that you can have that impact coming on from the other side. And most people will not recognize it because it's so quick.
This is one of the ways that 4DX is not like those 4D theme park rides, because those were basically short films. As intense as they could get, you weren't sitting there for 2 hours. So CJ's producers have to think about their work a bit like jazz. It's about the scenes where you're not getting blasted.
There are times where you have to utilize, in essence, negative space, right? As much as you want the 4DX effect to be there all the time, you really don't. You want that to be the contrast to when it's not there. Horror films, just in general, Alien Romulus is a perfect example. All of a sudden, nothing's moving. There's no effect. It's dead quiet. Why? Right? That's the suspense that it builds, and then when it hits, it's quick. It's a jolt to your system.
Because the 4DX effects for a movie are so informed by the movie itself, the approach CJ 4Dplex takes is very different for each genre. For an action horror thriller like Alien Romulus, it's important to know when to pull your punches and when to go for the heart, so to speak. Early in the movie, the fourth dimension is more restrained. It's tense and spaceship focused, but the horror is all about what's on the edge of the screen, just out of view. What's that? Who's there? So CJ 4Dplex smartly keeps the effects to a minimum. But when you get to the point all Alien movies eventually get to, That's when all the restraint pays off.
I think the coolest scene in the film is where you can see it actually happening, and it just keeps punching from the inside to this character's sternum. And every time that happens, you get a kick on the back. And it just, again, it's almost, it's primal. It just, you feel it, and you can seeing it, feeling it. There's something that happens and tickles your brain that just makes it that much more real.
That tickle in your brain, that's immersion. The difference between appreciating something for how realistic it is and believing it is. Like when you go on the Jurassic Park ride at Universal, on one level you know the big T-Rex robot is fake. But on another, your brain is screaming, "Get out of here, you're gonna get eaten! Why are you enjoying this?" But this sort of hindbrain immersion isn't just effective for scaring you. In Deadpool and Wolverine, there's, spoilers, quite a bit of blood. And the movie uses the old trick of throwing blood on the camera, i.e. the audience. In much the same way that audiences aren't afraid the train in the movie will crush them anymore, this blood splatter trick isn't all that shocking nowadays. But in 4DX, it literally hits different.
When blood hits your face, we spray water in your face. And it's that kind of, you don't expect it, right? And it just hits you and you're not sure exactly what hit you. Now, it's clean, it's filtered water, it's all right. So it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, there's this almost primal urge just to be so grossed out by it.
But before anything is thrown on the faces of the public, there's a very important screening that takes place with representatives from the movie studio who can offer feedback before signing off on the 4DX version of the film. Back when the format was new, that didn't always mean someone like the director or producer would attend, but as the popularity of 4DX has grown, that's changed. A great example from this year would be on Dune Part 2, when an editor on the film attended the screening. At the beginning of the bombastic worm riding scene, Paul Atreides plants a device called a thumper to attract the giant worm Shai-Hulud.
And this thumper, as it thumps, you feel the chair vibrate along in tune with the thumping.
Originally, CJ40plex had the thumping occur only when the thumper was on screen. After Paul, walked away from it, the effect faded out.
And because that made sense to us from a visual perspective. But the filmmaker who knows this film intricately said, you know what would be really cool? Let's just have it thumping in the background. That way you're going to subconsciously, or maybe not so subconsciously, feel it. And as the character is on screen, you're going to just feel that suspense of waiting for the worm to come to the character.
That's what makes a blockbuster year for the format so exciting. 4DX is specifically a reason to see a movie in a movie theater. And the more successful 4DX is, the more a film's creative team has a reason to be involved. And the more a creative team is involved, the better the spectacle is going to be. Because spectacle isn't inherently a good or bad thing. Sometimes it's an immersive, four-dimensional experience. And sometimes it's a tie-in popcorn bucket that doesn't even look like the alien egg sack, which is the obvious choice here. 4DX and popcorn buckets are designed to get your butt into a theater, but one can leave you feeling fulfilled, and the other kind of empty. Or bloated, I guess. When I think of quality spectacle in 2024, I think of mind-altering concert experiences in a sphere the size of a city block. Like a modern-day Colosseum, preposterously hosting a naval battle, the sphere is a temple to the kind of spectacle that draws you out of the house and into its world.
These new experiences that we're starting to see pop up and deliver just unimaginable scale, and 65-inch TVs are the norm these days, maybe even 75. 20 years ago, 65 was unheard of, but now 85, 100 inches. When it just comes to sheer size and audio scale, you can get that at home for a relatively affordable price.
This is the same situation video games find themselves in. A competition for your attention and a need to stand out. For games that might mean grabbing your attention with incredibly immersive experiences, or the equivalent of a popcorn bucket. Movie theaters face a more daunting choice because they have to convince you to leave your home. And trust me, that's tough. Got a lot of games. It's also easy to be cynical about modern cinema. Too many sequels, too much CGI, and not enough heart. There's no guarantee that 4D movies are the solution to all of Hollywood's problems, but it is proving to be the sort of spectacle that gets people into the theater, and that's important. We came pretty damn close to losing movie theaters as a cultural experience. We have millions of movies at our fingertips in home theaters that would frighten people from a century ago. But at a movie theater, you're at an event, one you enjoy alongside friends and strangers, a beautiful, ephemeral moment where you feel joy and fear and love, and now you can get blasted too. I think that's pretty spectacular. Dune literally has an object you put your hand in, but no, we got a sexualized worm. Hey, you know what? The coffin's pretty good. I like the coffin. Maybe I was thinking of Rampage, or San Andreas, or River Cruise.
Jungle Cruise.
Jungle Cruise. Oh, I was thinking of Jumanji, Return to the Jungle. Or no, maybe I was thinking of Journey to the Mysterious Island.